Okay, final machine. Here we go. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's three Prakim Rambam, Hilchos Chidos, Prakim Yud Aleph, and Yud Beis. We are beginning with Perek Asiri. We are beginning with the 10th chapter. The Rambam, after beginning the series by telling us about the Dalet Shomrim, the Rambam is going to speak about how do we define the relationship between someone that's holding on to an item as a mashkin. What are they? Are they Hashem Rechinam? Are they Hashem Resachid? If something were to happen to it, we're going to learn about if something, give something to a professional. You give something to a dry cleaners. You give your shoes to a shoe fixer. What is their responsibility vis-a-vis? What category do we put them in? Hashem Rechinam, are they Hashem Resachid? If something were to happen, what are they chayiv to? And Bachlal, from there, the Rambam is going to go into, if you give something in to an uman to do something to better your raw material and they make a mistake, what is their responsibility to you? And a lot more. Perek Asiri has 7 halachas, beginning with halacha Aleph, says the Rambam. Hamalves chaver ala mashkin. The norm. Reuven loaned money to Shimon. Reuven was afraid Shimon might default. Reuven took from Shimon a mashkin. He took collateral. He took a security. Ben shilvo ma'ois. It doesn't matter what item did Reuven lend to Shimon, the normal money. Ben shilvo peiros. He gave him items. He gave him produce. Ben shemishkanoi b'shasal va'asoi. Whether he took the mashkin when he gave the loan. Ben shemishkanoi. Whether he took the security at some point after he gave the loan. In all of these scenarios, be paskin hadei zeh shomer sachar. Now this is very interesting. Why do we consider the lender, the creditor, a shomer sachar? He's not being paid to guard it. What is his benefit? So there are many approaches. If you remember learning this in the Gemara, if you remember the whole sugya of shomer aveda, Rabbi Yosef, shomer chinam, shomer sachar, just one of the svaras we have in Chazal. Listen to this, Yakir. It's like this: if I'm holding on to your mashkin, if while I'm guarding it, someone comes and asks me for tzedakah, and I can't do two things at the same time, because now, what's the mitzvah of looking after your mashkin? No, the mitzvah is to lend money. Since I would only lend money because of the mashkin, it's included in the mitzvah of im kesef talmi. And ha'oisik b'mitzvah, I won't have to give the pruta to the ani. That's Rabbi Yosef. That's one of the svaras why we consider the holder of the security as a shomer sachar, which is huge, which means he'll be chayiv. If we would view him as we would think, Stami is a shomer chinam, he's not getting paid for that. Faket, he loaned money. This is just a security, then he would be pater for gnei v'aved. Lefikach, im avar hamashkin nignav chayiv b'dam. But even though he's a shomer sachar, let's not forget what we learned in Perek Rishon over here. The im neras b'mashkin. If there was something completely out of his control, for example, shenilkach, that the mashkin was stolen from him, belistin mizuim by armed bandits, v'chayoytze by mishar anosim. So then, okay, as a shomer sachar, he'll be exempt. But also remember, he is a shomer, which means he has to take an oath. Yishava shenenas, and then the Yishalom Bal Hamashkin, the Bal Hamashkin is the borrower, will have to pay his debt until the final pruta, and the Bal Hamashkin cannot say, I already paid you back, I gave you the mashkin. You lost the mashkin, you allowed the bandit to take it. No, we don't say that. He's a shomer. Wherever the shomer sachar is spotted, he'll be pater. Ubemela, the loan will still stand. Simple. Halacha base. Another case where we will view the relationship between the person and the item they are guarding as a shomer sachar type of relationship. I will watch something for you today. Tomorrow you'll watch it for me. In other words, one hand will help the other. That's called, listen to these words. It's not only a shomer sachar. That's called shmira b'ba'alim. In other words, that since when I received the pikadon, everyone took upon themselves the chiyuv of guarding something for the fellow. It's amazing this. That has a din of she'ela b'ba'alim that we learned that Rambam paskins. It's not only by a borrower, it's for all of the Dalet Shomrim. Even though when the item was lost, when the item was stolen, whenever it happened, the ba'alim were not there. It's all about bisman ha'she'ela. That's called bisman ha'she'ela. And the biggest chiddush is that we learned that even if one is pleisheya, they will be pater mitzad dinim shomrim. However, that's if Shemar Liva Eshmar Loch now, not today, tomorrow. However, if Shemar Le'yom Eshmar Loch, in other words, Shemar Loch, the Ba'alim are only going to return the service later, not at the time that I took it. That's already not Shemi, that's already not She'ela B'Ba'alim. That's a Shomer Sachar, but that's not She'ela B'Ba'alim. Or Hashilene Hayoim Ba'ashil Chalamach. Or Shmoyle Hayom Ba'ashil Chalamach. Or Hashilene Hayom Ba'ashil Chalamach. No, it's whatever the terms will be. If it's not happening at the same time, it's not called She'ela B'Ba'alim. Nor was then it will be a Shomer Sachar. Even though you're not getting schar with money. But I'm going to do you a favor because you're going to do a favor for me. Beautiful. Now let's move on to another common scenario. All craftsmen. You're giving your stuff to a dry cleaner, you're giving your watch to a watchmaker, you're giving your shoe to a shoe fixer. You're paying them for the service. You're not paying them to be shomer. But it's considered a shomer sachar. Shomer sachar. Why is it considered a shomer sachar? Because they're getting paid for the job. They're not getting paid, but it's self-understood that I would only give you my watch to fix because I want to make sure you're going to watch over it. I'm not going to get it back worse than the way I gave it to you. So that's part of the money. However, the moment they finished their work and they notified the owner by telling him the words, take your article and bring me the money. First, take your article and then bring me the money. Or even if they only use the words, I finished my work, gemarte. Once they notify the owners, you can't say that they are a shomer sachar. They finished. The fact that they're watching it because you're kratzing and coming a week later, shomer chinam, they're not a shomer sachar anymore. Then shomer chinam. But when do we say Taki he becomes a shomer chinam? If the ikir messages, take your article back. That was said first. But if he first said, Have ma'is, bring the money, and then toil sholcha. That's understood. 1 second, it's amazing. When he says bring the money and then I'll give it to you, what is he implying with that say there? He's saying that until when I'll get the money, I'm not going to give it to you. So now he's like taking it as a mashkin. What did we begin this chapter with? If you relationship is a holder of a mashkin, you are a shomer sachar. So you have to know how to word it for you to be less liable. Amazing. Halacha Dalet. Now you'll appreciate the Seder of the Rambam. No, this chapter is just to tell you how do we frame the relationship like we spoke about on Uman. But now that we spoke about an Uman, let's open up the whole Uman topic. Nasan lu'umanim l'sakim. You gave something to an Uman, obviously, to fix it. And what happened? The grace of genius, v'kilkul. So first of all, chayavim l'shal. Now, what they have to pay has to be clarified. For example, nasan l'chadash, you gave stuff to a carpenter. What did you give? You gave a already shida table migdal. You already gave different types of closets, boxes, and you asked of them, l'kaboya behen maspet, place a nail in it. What they did was, they broke it. Or you didn't even give them a box yet. You gave them the raw material to build a box. You gave them wood to make it into some sort of closet, chest, and box. And they made it, and then they broke it. Now here's a very important rule. Meshalem loy demei teva shedo migdal. Think about it, guys. Think about the latter case. Okay. I gave you, let's say you're the woman. I gave you wood. Let's say the wood is worth $10. When you made it into the box, now the box is worth $20. Then you broke the box. I gave you wood. Are you chayv to pay for the $20 loss? Or are you chayv to pay for the $10 loss? You would think maybe only for the $10 because I only gave you wood. No, it's the fact that you already made it better and then you made it worse. But as far as I'm concerned, I gave you something worth 10 and you're giving it back now. The broken wood is worth 9. You only was matzik. We don't say that. Why don't we say that? Because that's the whole machlokes and think about it, just the words. The question is whether umen koine sheva hakeli, uma koine sheva hakeli would mean, we don't say that way, Yakir, is that if I give you wood and you take it from wood into a box, until when I pay you for the box, It's ki'ilu, you're a shutiv in that. If that would have been the case, then you would be chayv to pay me less money. Taka, you broke the box, but I didn't pay for the box yet. Elama, what I own is only the wood. Okay, you were mazik the wood. We don't say. We say, ein ha'uman koine shvach keli. It's always considered fully mine. I'm chayv to pay you for your service. But since the wood is mine, and now that you made it into the box is mine, you were mazik it after it was a box, you have to pay me a greater amount of money. Beautiful. So the meshalom lay also the meiteva shedo migo, because we paskin she'ein leuman koil shvach hakeli. This is beautiful. Another rule: nasan semar latzaba. You gave wool to someone to dye it. What did they do? You should know that the way you dye things, even out. I remember this in Brazil. Is that a lot of heat is needed. Now, what the problem with heat is heat makes water evaporate. It's a normal thing. You put schayra into a dyeing big vat. If that water will evaporate, you won't see it. Not only, forget about dyeing, the wool will get fabren, the material will get ruined. That's what happened. So it overheated, so the water evaporated, so the wool got destroyed. What I gave you got destroyed. Nice and like the made samra. Simple. Now, what happens if tzava'o ka'ur, you dyed the wool in a way that I find it unattractive? Again, how do you define that? The Rambam is not going into it. Or, even clearer, you dyed it the wrong color. And you dyed it black. I know nowadays with technology, you can correct it, almost always, which is amazing. But then you couldn't, especially if you made it into a darker color. I wanted it red. You made it black. You can't go down. Or shachar with tzvay edon, in a case where you can't fix it. Or another case, I gave you wood l'charash, again to the carpenter, to make out of it a kisei no'eh, however you define that attractive chair, and the carpenter made it into a kisei, I made it into a psashvachas chair. Or he made it guard into a bench, again, unfixable. So here, what we say in all of these cases, you have to see how much money did this saba, did this charash invest in it. Let's say my raw material is worth, Yakir, $10. Let's say you're the Uman. You invested $2 into it. If you would have done it properly, it would have been worth not 12, it would have been worth 20. So we see which one was more. If the shevach is more than the expense, not the shevach of what I wanted, even the shevach of the ugly, the existing one. So then I only have to give you the haitzah. It's the Baal, the owner is Oda Yodei al Holyoin, because you were Mashana. Let me say it this way: the woman's yad is on the tachtoin. However, even worse. That means that the guy did such a bad job that he invested $2 into it, but the end product is so ugly, it's only worth $11. So then you lose. I only give you the shevach. Why? Because of this shino. You made a shino, you lose. Omar Balakeli, the Balakeli now is going to tell the Uman, you know what? I don't want what the Chazal gave me to pay you the lower of the two. No. I gave you wool. The wool was worth 10. I wanted it one color. You gave me back a bad color. Pay me for the raw material. I don't have the right to do so. That he cannot claim. Similarly, if the Uman says, you're paying me the lesser amount, I'll pay you the money for the raw material. Take the money for the wood and leave me alone. Also ain't shoymim like. Why here again? Because the material always belongs to the owner. You have to give that back. You made a shino, you will always get the lesser amount of money. Another uman relationship. A person has wheat. They don't have the grinding machines. They give it to someone to grind into flour. Now, when you grind, we learned it so many times already together. One of the things that they would do prior to grinding is that they would soak it in water. Why would they soak it in water? Because bran is considered something inferior. We don't want whole wheat. We want nucky. To do nucky, to make the white flour white, not bleach. Bleach is not healthy, but white is good. Is first you soak it. And that allows for a lot of the schmutz to flow to the top. And then you go through the grinding. They skip that step. The loyal assassin, he did not soak it prior. And therefore, the end product of the flour was subin mursa. It's bran, it's coarse flour, it's inferior. Now, one solution is bring it to LA and sell it here for double the price. The dirtier it is, the more you're going to pay. Whole wheat. However, there was no alay then. No, san kemach lanachton. You gave bread to a baker, and what did he make for you? Pas nipulim, a bread that crumbles. Das hält sich nicht. You gave a behemoth to a tabach. We're not speaking about the animal was treif. No, that's not the fault. The shoichet made it into an avela. That means he didn't follow. He broke one of the 5 dinim of shchita. Now the animal is an avela. Not only is it not kosher, my friends, it's matame. In all of these cases, chayavim l'shalom damim. Since we just said before that until when the guy tells you your product is ready, he has a din of a shomer sachar, of a noise sachar. What's the pshat of a noise sachar? And oinus gadol, he's exempt. None of the things that we mentioned, you can't say pshia. It's not pshia, but you can't call it. It's not an oinus gadol. If he would have taken more precautions, he would have done a better job.
Who gets to deal with the nevela?
The owner. Well,
the uman.
No.
Oh, he gives him the nevela?
He gives him the nevela, and then he pays for the difference. Then he pays him for the difference in the price. Now hold on. There's 2 things. First of all, if you're not a tabach mumcha, if you're not an uman mumcha, it's good to know that. And you do something and you mess it up, you know what we call you halacha yakir? You're a posheya. It's another step. On the other hand, if you are a mumcha and you were never going to get paid for your job, why are you a shomer sachar? We said because an uman is getting paid. He's not getting paid to guard it, but since it's included. But if you start doing it bechinam, then it'll be a shomer chinam. If he's a shomer chinam, all of the things that we mentioned is not called pshia. When a shoichet does shehiyah, does hagrama, it's not called pshia. These things can happen. It's taken not a oinus gadol. So therefore, he only chayev because it's considered in the category of k'nei of aveda. And if you will be a shomer chinam, you'll be partem el. However, v'imena mumcha, even though you did it bechinam, if a non-mumcha undertakes to do something and they mess it up, they're called posheya. Chayev l'shalem. Now we're going to learn this soon, and by dayanim, this is very important. By the dayan gives a psak din, kfar hoya leilamim, that he gave a wrong psak. So it's a big difference whether he's a mumcha. If he's not a mumcha and he did that, he's going to be chayiv out of pocket. Be careful. Get involved when you are able. If you're not able, learn. So you have these money changers, they're the big experts, and you show them a coin to wanting to know whether this coin will be, yafa means acceptable, or whether it won't be acceptable. Because you have today a dollar bill and it's torn, and you want to know whether it's okay or not. So in this chara ohu, another din which is amazing. So then he's chayiv l'shalom. Amazing. Here it's a bigger chiddush here because he's not really taking hold of it. Doesn't matter. He's getting paid for his opinion. His relationship to it becomes like a shomer sachar. Afa pishu baki, and the einat tzarich lihislamed. But such a baki, dafka because he's a baki, if he looked at it bechinam and he made a wrong ruling, and because of that you got a coin that's not acceptable, he'll be pater because it's not called pshia. But again, when is he not called a pshia? But if this money changer is not yet a baki, and he decided to give a grace opinion, then he's chayv l'shalom because he's considered a posheya. He's taka shomer chinam. A shomer chinam is chayv b'pshia. Ava b'shomer chinam. But even here, the Rambam writes another nuance. When is he a posheya? Is v'hu sheyomer al shulchani. That's if this guy that's showing it to this shulchani, that's not a baki, that should have says, I'm not a baki. I want you to know that I'm relying on you. Or even if he doesn't say those words, meaning the guy, the shulchani, knows that I will not be asking anyone else. You understand? Because there are other times where you have these nudniks that have to get everyone's opinion. If I know that you're coming to me many times at Arav, you're calling me up for a shayla, I know that after I hang up the phone, you'll call up another 8 rabbanim. To begin with, I have less achrayis. But if you know that they're relying on you and you're not a baki, then you're considered a psheya if you make a mistake. Another thing, tabach that shechted bechinam the nibal. What did we just say right now? That whether the chayiv or pater has to do, right? They're chinam, shomer chinam, whether they're baki or not. So now there's another layer that they have to bring a raya that they are mumchim for them not to be chayiv. They have to bring a raya. Not that this guy has to prove that they're not b'kiyim. However, the raya is brought. Amazing halacha. These are big halachas. Halacha above. The koine shenahago sheyeh hanoiteya ilonus noitel chatzi hashavach ubala karka chatzi. So this is really continuing to what we learned yesterday, Shabbos. We learned about the oris. So that's the case. I just want to say something. It's more than an oris, just to clarify. In the case of an oris is someone, the trees were planted. Here we're speaking about someone who's investing. They're planting the trees in someone else's land, and they're going to divide it half and half.
Is it also called aris?
Yeah. But I want to just differentiate between this and between another type of aris, in which the guy is coming just to work with what is. Let's go there. The nata v'hishbiach or the nata v'hifsid. Now the Rambam is writing both things. Just to know, when he worked, let's say, 2 parts of the field. In one part of the field, Yakir, he did work that brought a lot of shvach. And the other part of the field, he planted and he ruined things. What you do is you put it all together. Wow. In other words, just like we said,
if you planted peaches and pears, and the pear was matzliach, and the
not about matzliach oinus gadol. We're speaking about, like we learned before, it's in the category. It's not pshia, but he did not make enough effort. So since he's getting paid to do it, what did we learn? Everyone in this chapter, you're getting paid to do it. You're on shomer sachar. Shomer sachar, you're chai for gneva b'aveda. In other words, you're responsible for that which you could have done a better job in. So if you're chayiv, you're going to be menak. Afilu his neimot. Now, it doesn't matter. Any type of statement in which you state about future consequences, that if you don't do something good, you're going to lose it all, it's always considered an asmachta. And therefore, but you are menaka masha hifsid. Why are you menaka masha hifsid? Because an uman that's getting paid, dinoi ki shomer sachar. That's the big cloud. Now, ho yemenogam shitel anati amertzel balakaka mertzel. Ho v'chach ho yemenogam shitel aros lish. Now let's go to a case that the guy that doesn't plant, you see, now you get it. He's doing less work. He'll also get a share, but he'll get a lesser share. And now he says, I want to walk out of this responsibility. Now think about it. What does the owner, what happens to the owner? The owner now can hire an artist and pay the artist a lesser percent. So this is not bad for the owner. Now, the balakarka has to have more work. So had a balakarka moided artist. So first of all, the half he's going to get. The artist now from the other half is not going to get the other half. He's only going to get a third.
He takes the shlish out of his.
He's going to, the artist takes it out of the neiteya. The neiteya walked away from his responsibility. So the guy will get paid from the half of the neiteya, but there'll be a 6 left over because the guy, and that still belongs to the neiteya because at the end of the day, the neiteya planted is considered a partner. Now, what's amazing here is that we don't say that the neiteya is chayiv to bring the artist. I'll tell you why. Because the balakarka has to trust him. So it's like the balakarka has to bring in the artist. But the money that the artist will get paid will be from the share of the neteya, and if there's anything left over, he'll still get that because he planted. Now, final halach zayin. Here we're speaking about someone that's planting on behalf of all, but you're working for the city, or a tabak that you're working for the city, and you made an avela, or hamakas dam shechaval, a blood letter, or a soifer. He's working for the city, or meaning either he didn't teach them, or even worse, he taught them wrong. That's the worst thing, because when you're young and you were taught something wrong, it's very hard to get that out of your mind. So here the din is, such a error justifies for you to be right away let off, because they are kemuslim va'oimen achi yishtaldo b'malachtam. In other words, there's a big difference. When I'm working for a yachid, my responsibility is not as much as if I'm working for the rabbi.
That's not happening in Jewish schools. They're not removing.
So they write away laws. That's like I said. They don't even have to have a first warning. What's happening in Jewish schools, Bichlal, is that parents think that the school is becoming a parent. That's the big issue today in Chinuch. As long as we understand that I am a father, I'm a choiv to educate my kid. And if I'm paying $1,500 a month or $15,000 a month, it doesn't mean I'm a choiv for my kid. School is going to help me a little bit. Okay, moving on to today's second chapter, Perek Achad Asar. Now we're going to every chapter today is like a whole different topic. Now we're going into the mitzvah of paying the workers' wages on time. It's a positive commandment. It's a negative commandment. All right, we'll see what on the time means. Perek Achad Asar has 9 halachas, beginning with halacha al. Says the Rambam, mitzvahs asay liten schar asocher b'zman. There's a positive commandment, right, in Parshas Kiseitze to pay the worker his wages on time. What does on time mean? We'll say, as it says, upon the day it's due, on the day that it's due, pay him his wage. Not only did you violate the positive commandment, you also violated the negative commandment. Over there in Parshas Kiseitze, as it says, don't let the sun to set without him receiving it. Now, the Rambam will make it clear in a moment that if a guy is working for the daytime of the day, can't be that you're not allowed to let the sun set before paying him. It can't be that, because before sunset, he's chayiv to work for you. Him going to get payment is him abnegating his work. As we'll see, there are people that work during the daytime of the day. There are people that work during the nighttime of the day. There are different sukkim, and we're going to apply each pasuk to a different scenario. The ikar will be is that whenever he ended his work, let's say someone not who worked hours during the day, Americans. No, they worked the whole day till dark. You're chayiv to pay him in the next oina of Laila. And if a guy worked at night, that is where the pasuk says, Leisova olav hashemesh. You have to pay him in the next period. We're dividing every day into oinas hayom and oinas halayla. Now, if a person did violate it, nevertheless, ve'ein loikin alav zeh, sharei hu chayiv l'shalem. Any love that comes along with the chiyuv of tashlumin, we already learned, you're not loika, you're rectified by fixing it by paying. Echot schar ha'adam. Chiddush is, even if schar behemo, even if schar kelim. No, it's not that Nebuch, the guy worked manual labor and he's being delayed in his payment. He didn't work anything. The guy owns a car. You rented his car. You were soichet his car for a day. A keli, doesn't matter. You have to pay biyoymai. Again, both the asay and the lab also goes to behema, also goes to kelim. Another din, even if he's not a yid, but yes, he's a ger toishav. Yesh by mishum beyoymai titan scharai elama. What you won't have is you won't have the lav. Why won't you have the lav? Because in Parshas Kedoshim, the Torah writes, Loisa ashoik esreyachon. Don't withhold wages. And then the Torah says, Loisolen pu'ul aschachin. So the juxtaposition is Torah. But it's still Yechai Vana Asay. Halacha Beis. Now we're going to see in a moment, guys. There are some times that people don't have the money. Okay, we're going to speak about that in a moment. We're speaking about someone, Yakir, who has the money. It's a big difference. He's withholding it. Kol hakoivish char sachin. It's not only asay, not only a law, but keilu nakol esnafshem imenu. It's as if he's taking away his neshama. Well, let me say his nefesh, not his neshama. His nefesh habahamis, which you need. Shenemer, as it says, ve'elav hu noisa. The Torah writes the words nafshoy. In other words, because of it, because of work, people put their life on the line. That's what people do for jobs, and even halachically. There's a certain amount of danger that one is allowed to put oneself in more than normal to make a parnos. So if I'm willing to pick fruit off the tree climbing, to wash windows on the 90th floor, why? Because I need the money. So even if my job was to mop the floors, work is something for which you give up, you give your nefesh. So that's how important it is. And really says that Rambam, really the four negative commandments. If you withhold, number one, balta ashoik, you're withholding the wages. Number two, during that time, baltigza, it's amazing. Number 3, loisolin pu'ula sachid, as we just quoted. The loisolin pu'ula sachid, that was the one that we mentioned, is juxtaposed with loisashe kesreyacha. That's why we excluded the ger toisha. And now the one that we began this chapter with, mishum loisali olav hashemesh. Don't let the sun set without him receiving it. That's the 4. And the mishum b'yom titan scharay. Okay, now that we said all of that, really you have to learn this more be'iyam. So if the Rambam began with an asay and a lav, and then he's adding 4 asay, like why didn't he begin with a halacha aleph that if you hold back your chayv on 4? Kasha. Okay. So like if you work for the daytime of the day, don't say it's 12-hour shift, it's during the day, as it says in my Barchi Nafshi. People used to work from when it got light until when it got dark. So then you end already when it's dark. You don't get paid during when it's day. Then you're going to call alayla. The all of Nemer, and regarding that it says loisolin pu'ula sachir itcha ad boiker. The Torah clearly says until when do you have until the morning? Until the morning or until loisavei alav hashemesh. That's the way the Chazal resolve. And on that it says because he worked at night for days, so he's getting paid during the day. What about someone who doesn't work 12-hour shifts or doesn't work the whole day? What happens if you live in America? They work 8 hours. Halavai. People are working 3 hours. So since he ended his job before Shkia, you have to pay him. You have a much smaller window to pay me. Taka gets paid during that oina. Gets paid that night. What happens if someone works for Shabbos, means for a week? What happens if you work for a chodesh? What happens if you work for a year? What happens if you work for 7 years? It has to do with when you finished. Yotza bayoim. Bayoim means not shkia. During 2 p.m. Goiva that day. Yotza balayla, goiva koloisa layla. One thing is clear. You don't pay him prior. You pay him after. But you pay him if there's still time during that oina. If not, in the following oina. Halacha gimel. What happens if a guy is a kablan, guy's an uman, he's not getting paid as a schir yom, he's getting paid for the job. So let's go. No, santaliselo uman. He has to fix your talis, and the guy finished it. The tailor let you know, come pick up your suit, it's ready. Afilu echari asore yomim. Even if you kratzed around for 10 days, calls manchakli biyadu uman, that's important, then eino yoivet. But once the guy gave you back your item, here again, if he gave it to you with bachatzi ayoim, and it doesn't have to mean because you had 6 hours, it means prior to shkia, you have to pay him that day. Why? Because kablanos is like schirus. When the job was done, meaning not when he told you it's done, like we learned in the previous chapter, no, when he gave it to you. And then v'chayv litin bizmanoi. I
wonder if there is a cap on the time.
I wonder if there's a cap. According to this, there's no cap. According to the Minig Hamadina, could be there's a cap, and you have to follow the.
You should have to drive as long as you want.
Doesn't there come a time where they say that if you don't pick it up within 30 days, we own it or something like that? I don't know.
Is these guys still out about it?
Whatever they make up is going to be valid. Kol Tanai Shemamam and Kayim, other than an ribis. Okay, halacha dal. Say is Charlie Payalim. Guys, you remember this from Gemara? Let's go back and forth. So like this. So you ask someone to hire workers for you. So the shliach, it's from now until the end will be if the shliach told the workers something a little bit different. Let's begin with the norm. If when the shliach hired the workers, he made it clear, I'm only the shliach. In other words, scharchem al bal habayis, your salary will be paid by the guy who sent me. Listen to these words. Why? The owner is not chayiv because he did not hire him. That's not what the pasuk is talking about. V'zeh, meaning the shliach, because they did not work for him. In other words, he told them scharchem al balabayis. But the im lo yarmalem scharchem al balabayis. We paskin that the shliach is oved. If you hire someone, even though it's for someone else, this negative commandment goes on you. Another thing. Ein hasoichet. Soichet is the employer. Okay, let's get the words clear. Oved ella. Bisman shetavoy hasachet. Everything we learned until now. Think about it. A guy worked that day. He can come the whole night. Do you have to run after him? No, you don't have to run after him to get payment. That means if he does not come to you to demand payment, you're not going to be over. It's only he asked and you didn't give it.
You forgot there was no Mishum Gezer?
No, because we're speaking about, think about how it's very limited amount of time. Think about it. If you hire workers, if the guy finished 5 p.m. and Shki is 5:30, you're going to be over, although you have to run after them. It doesn't make sense. They have to come to you. If he did not ask for payment, or another, very important, he asked you for payment, and when he asked of you at that time, Hashem knows, you did not have the money. Or Shimcho Eitzel Achel V'Kiber. What happened is that I hired you, and I had someone who already agreed with me for whatever reason that he's going to pay my workers. That guy told me that. So when the worker came to collect, I told him, okay, go to Chaim Yankel, he will pay you. That's called him Cho Eitz Lacher. And that guy was Mekabel, then Paharei Zapater. If there was a delay, the employer is not Chayiv, just like the Shliach. Okay. Halachei. I just want to know, there's a machlokes how to understand the V'kibel here in the Rambam. Either V'kibel means that the worker has to accept that. See, when the Shliach hired him, the fact that the Shliach hired him, he understood the Shliach is responsible. If I hire someone and I tell him someone else will pay you, many people, V'kibel means the worker said okay. If the worker didn't say it's okay, just because I want to make payment through that guy because he owes me money, doesn't take me off the hook if that guy doesn't pay him on time. Just to know that.
What would be a different understanding of it?
The worker can tell the guy, no, you hired me, you pay me. Why should I go to that guy? Very simple. A guy violated all of the above. He delayed payment. Sometimes you would say, I already sinned. I'm already going to Gehenna. Now let me delay it another week. I mean, that's it. Like, what's the upside for me? But don't think that you're over every moment of Dairaisa. You're over on the Rabbanan. Based on a pasuk where it says in Mishlei, Al toimer l'reyacha, come and go, I'll pay you tomorrow. You're not allowed to do that. But that's the Rambam calls it divrei. Interestingly, divrei neviim. Sometimes we call divrei neviim divrei Kabbalah. Divrei Kabbalah has a bigger koyach than a Zeder de Rabbanan. Here the Rambam calls it lafshel divrei.
When the employer doesn't have the money to pay,
then he's not loiver on the law.
so there's no issue there. So like these schools, they have the teachers and they don't have the money to pay. Some of the months
we all here have businesses, you can say, and whenever a guy says I don't have money to pay, we can debate what that means. What does it mean you don't have money to pay? That has to be clarified. According to halacha, I don't have money to play. We learned this together. It means I really don't have money. Sometimes I have money, but I need that money to pay something else. The worker comes first. The worker comes first.
Well, if you got to run your business, and you can't buy your goods because
then shut your business down. It's not so simple this to say I don't know to know halachically what it means not to have. But sometimes we all know you don't have money. Not only are you in the red, you're maxed on your credit cards. You're chavedim, I'm not lending you money. The one guy that you can go to, you're afraid to tell him on what dire straits you're okay. That's life, my friends. Then on Shabbos you make a good l'chaim. Shabbos is gavaldik, but then Monday morning comes. And then you have to deal with it. Allah Chava. Call Sacher Shishchari Be'edim. Oh. So I guess, if when you were hired, it was in front of Edim and Utva Bismanoi, listen to what's going on over here, another normal. And the Balabaya says, what do you mean? I paid you already. Now, Schara Be'edim is important because here, the employer doesn't have a migul. No, he cannot deny the fact that he hired him. He hired him. Means he was mechoyev or he still is mechoyev. The Balabas is saying, I paid you. And the Sachet is saying, I never received anything from you. So the Rambam Paskins, we learned this together, that Tiknu Chachamim, Sheyeshava HaSachet V'yitol, Taka, it has to be Nakitas Chayfetz. And normally, guys, the rule is Nishboyim, to exempt yourself. Here are some of the cases where you make an oath and you collect money. Kedin Kol Nishba B'noitel. That it has to be Benakitas Chayfetz. But why are we giving more credence to the statement of the Sacher, of the worker, of the employee? We say Let's say he's busy managing his workers, and therefore there's a possibility that he was managing his workers. He thought he paid him. That's possible. And like we said, the guy knows whether he got paid more than the employer knows whether he gave him. And more than that, listen to these words, even if the worker is a minor, which is amazing. The din is that the minor has the ability, even as a katan, to make this shua ke'en doiraisa and to get the money. But all of that is only because the balabas doesn't have a migu. But if the whole relationship began in a way where the balabas can deny the whole thing, so now we say migu, meaning I never hired you. Now he's saying, I hired you and I gave you schar. Now the balabas will be believed. Elama, 1 second. It will be like any other case. You owe me money. The guy's a kofer hakel. For that, will always be a shvos hesses. If he shove a balabais hesses shenasan, or what happens if he tells him, I paid you half, I still owe you half. That's not something else. We're going to learn this later in this sefer. What happens if there's only one aid that the worker was hired by the balabas? One aid is nothing at all. He still has the migu. We don't say nishba v'noitel. Nishba v'noitel is only if you have two aidim that are backing up at least the premise that I was hired. When he's demanding money, so guys, we already defined what that means. Let's say the guy worked that day. This money is at night. He's not coming at night. He's coming the next day. And the balabas is saying, I paid you at night. In other words, he doesn't have the migu. Still, the balabas will be believed. Because we say, because we are not choshid that the balabas was over on baltolim. But the imloi hevi raya, the worker. So then again, it's a normal case of your kofer hakel. The guy says, I don't owe you anything because I paid you. You show him balabais says. However, but if Yitaka brings a raya, I came at 10 p.m., I came at 11 p.m. and have edim. It means for the next day. No, it's the guy worked that day. He should have been paid at night. He has edim that he asked money at night. He had money that he asked money at night. Now he's coming the next day. He'll be the employee will be believed, but only during the next day. Very good. He worked Monday until night, which means Mano is the night going into the Tuesday. That's the beginning. That's the but him heavy Adam that he went kolel shlishi, whatever that means. Only kol yom shlishi. But even in that case, the moment you hit leil reviva halav, we go back to the din that we're not choshid the balabas to be over on the isur of baltolin. Don't forget, at the end of the day, the employee is the moitzi. So we apply the rule, ha-moitzi mechaveri olav araya. You have to make a shvus hesses. The guy can say, I have Adam that I came at Le'Ravi, I came Yom Revi. During that oina in which you have Adam, it extends your believability another 12 hours. Another machlokes. I promise to pay you 2 zuz. Here's your 2 zuz. The Sacher says, no, you promised me 3. Says the Rambam, for this, we don't say Nishba v'noit. In other words, he cannot support his claim with an oath. 1 second, we'll see in a moment. How that's done. It can be either way to mix us, but even way to mix us, Danny, the shvur goes on the balabas, and the balabas will be potter. Or if he gives him the money, he says heilach, then it'll be okay for hakol. But don't forget, Moedim Mixes is the opposite. Moedim Mixes is that I swear and I don't pay you more than I'm claiming. The Kanas Chachalim is that the Sacher doesn't get paid over here. And we say, so either, Danny, the Rambam is painting a case where it's not Moedim Mixes. He's trying to circumvent what you're saying. Either the guy paid him, they're only debating the one. The balabais is koifer hakel on the one, or even we'll learn this later by the dinim of Moedim Mixas. Even if he didn't give him the 2 b'poyim, he just told him, "Hey, look, no, the 2 I'm giving you. but there's no third. So there's no Moed B'Mikzas. So now we say, now 1 second. The question is, why would the Balabas, that's the Kasha, even have to do an Akitas Chayfetz? This now is a Kofer Hakel. By Kofer Hakel, in the case where there's no Moed B'Mikzas, he gave him the two where he said, Heilach. Then it should be a Shua Sesses. So there's another interesting rule. Because the Sachar, the Sachar is being told, we don't believe you. You hired, not only does he not believe him, he's not even believed with an oath. That's going to make him feel very dejected, rejected. So the Sachar. So the Chachamim want to give the employee the feeling that we're listening to him. His taina is strong enough midrabanan to be machayev the balabas a shvua b'nekitas chayfetz. No, it's really in this case, if it's not the way to mix us, not only is there no takanas chachamim for the Sachar to swear to be believed, no, the balabas is believed. If the balabas is believed, even though he has to swear because he's koifer hakel on the third, it's only a shvua sesses. The chachamim said let the balabas do nekitas chayfetz. Why? The dove is that takanas chachamamu kedei shelo yelach hasocher b'pachi nefesh. It's an amazing concept. But sometimes you want the losing side of the Nantoida to feel they're not walking away. You lost. We don't believe you. We listened to you enough that now you upgraded the level of a shua. I want you to know many people will not make a shua in the kitas chayfetz. Many times the balabas is going to say, "I'm not holding a sefer." Take your zulus and give it. That what? That the Chachamim said that the balabas, even though he's a koifer hakel, has to take an oath. That's a derabanan. Ke'ein doiraisa. That's only b'shis echarei be'edim. There's no migo. We know that he worked. We just don't know how much did they agree. And another detail, like we learned before, the worker is coming at a time where we don't say, "Ooh, the balabas was not even on Baltola," because he was Tevei Abizman. Either he was Charei Shaloi Be'edim. These are all cases where the balabas could have said, "I never even hired you," or there are Edim, but he's coming after the Zmanoi. Here, Yeshava balabais only a Heses, the normal Shaloi Kotzas Loi that he never made up for the three. He says, "I never agreed to anything more than I already gave you." Like we said again, we'll learn that Heilach later, that when it comes to the concept that I already paid you that part, so therefore it's now becoming a koifer hakel, you don't actually have to pay, you have to say, Heilach, I'm ready to pay. I accept that. When you come and say, I owe you 100, and I say, no, 50 Heilach, the other 50, I don't owe you. That's not a way to mix this. We'll learn about it when we learn a way to mix this. Gedin kol hatainas. Halacha ches. Hanoisen atkan, when you were hired a worker to pay money. Now, hanoisen talisel uman, you gave your talis to the dry cleaner, let's say, or to the tailor, and uman oimer, Stein kotzatstoli, yeah, here's your talis. I did my job. Now pay me the $2. And the Baal Hatalis says, no. I only agreed to pay you one. Ooh, now there's another nuance. You see, before money, by money we say, ha-moitzi mechaveri olavarayv. We have that nuance. Now, who's the moitzi? You understand? Over here, the uman is holding on to the talis. The professional is saying, you have to pay me 2, and I have your talis. So kol's mancha talis biyado uman and a chanami. Im yachol lito in shehilo kuch biyad. Again, you need to have the migu. As long as it's shaykh for the uman to say, I bought this from you, that gives more ne'emanus to the uman. Again, swearing to take is a derabanan. Hitaka has to have a sefer Torah, and he gets the 2. The yachal litin b'scharei until when? Until the value. Obviously, if the ganze talis is only worth $1, he cannot take from it $2. It's based on the ne'emanos that he could have claimed the talis itself. But that will all change if he's not in possession of the talis. But im yotzas talis mitachas yodoi, or she'ein loi boy chazaka. I'll give you an example, guys. If I'm a dry cleaner and there are Eidim that saw you drop off your suit in my store, I cannot claim the kucham. So in a case where I don't have that migu, now it's fakir. If I want to get $2, yeah, yakir, you're the balatalos. I'm the dry cleaner. I'm the tailor. If I don't have your talis, or if I cannot claim lakucha, I'm claiming you agree to pay two. You agree to pay one. You only pay the one. Forget the Baal Hamois is the Muhzak. Hamois mechaveri olavaraya. Teim loy hevi raya. Another din. Not there's the normal yeshava balatalis hases. Or then that's what you're saying. So you have to know how he has to know the dinim to know how to formulate his argument. Because if he says no, it wasn't two, I owe you one, he'll be a mighty mixes. Then he'll make a shvur da'iraisa. But still, he'll make a shvur da'iraisa and he won't pay the money. When did the Chachamim say that the Sachet gets to take the oath? Not in our scenario. Halacha 9, the final halacha of this chapter. Another nuance about this unique takanas Chachamim. I want you to know that normally when you come and make an oath, Beis Din scares you away. I want to go back to the beginning, that when a Sachet claims, I did not get paid, the Balabas says, I paid you. The Chachamim say that it's shaykh for an employer to think that he paid. I'm not talking about today payroll, because he has many workers, he's tarot. So therefore we believe the Sachet, this is an oath. On one hand, he has to take Nikitas Chayfetz. On the other hand, we dafka don't scare him. We tell him, don't worry about it. We encourage him to take the oath. We don't scare him away. And not only that, there's another din of Gilgal Shvur. Normally, the Sachet has to swear. That would normally give the employer the right to tell him, swear that you didn't steal when you worked. Like, he can be Magalgal any shvur he wants. He does not have that koyach. We want to make the Sachet feel very comfortable to take the oath and to get his money. That's what he's swearing v'yito. And ulachol hanishbayin, there isn't any other oath that's made in a Beis Din where the Beis Din it behaves that way towards an oath. That ein makila in chutz v'nasachin. Makila means you make the guy feel comfortable to swear. In all other oaths, you put a little bit of fear into him. By Kiddush HaChodesh, there's no shvu at all. Shemakilin Allah. And not only makilin, guys. Upoischel like tchila. Upoischel means Beis Din encourages the sacher to make an oath. Don't feel uncomfortable. The number is not relevant. It's only about one pruta. Which is amazing. In other words, we're not even going into the fact that by Boide B'Mixas, there's a minimum amount of kfira and oidah. He's saying that we didn't pruta kedin meir. On one hand, we're mekilin b'shua. On the other hand, you can say maybe if it's only for a pruta, yeah, the din applies no matter how little the money he's claiming he's owed. Moving on to today's third chapter, Hilchos Chiras Perek Shnei Masa. Guys, we're mamish going. Every chapter today is like a big perek because it's only one perek for an entire mitzvah. There's a mitzvah in the Torah that workers in certain circumstances, while they are working, they can eat from the product that they are working with. And we're going to define exactly when that applies. That a poil can eat b'shas malachim. Turns out that Rambam will make it clear that a guy can be getting paid a salary, let's say, of 5 zuz a day, and they can eat 50 zuz a day of stuff. They should just know that no one is going to hire them again. They have to have that understanding, or that will be taken into account. So there's going to be at the end certain statements made to the worker not to abuse of this. But that's the general mitzvah. This chapter has 14 halachas, and the Rambam is going to be very clear exactly when and when do we not apply this mitzvah. Halacha Aleph. Now like this. Hapoyalim she'ein oisin. Rule number 1. It has to be bedavar shegedulav min haaretz. Produce that grows from the earth. Number 2. They began the work. What's the definition of nigman malachta? Remember, anything that grows from the earth is something that if it grows on the Holy Land, at some point you'll be chayiv to take off trumas maisris, later chalom. It has to be that you began the work prior to that chiyuv being chal. Your work is finishing the malacha. Bein betolish, bein b'mechuver. In other words, you began at a time that item never had on it yet the chiyuv of Trumas U'Maiser Zochal. But you began prior to it being Nigmar Malachta. What did you do? You didn't bring it from one step of no chiyuv to another step of no chiyuv. Your work now completed it. Now that you finished, now this product has to be tied. That's the key here. Your actions brought it into the stage where the Torah says, "Ooh, now this is a finished product." Now, guys, obviously, once I brought it to that phase, I cannot eat. I know that. First of all, many times you could, but that's not the point. Eat it prior to. No, it's if I'm harvesting fruit and after it's in the baskets, that's considered a gemara. Now it can be sold. Prior to it being fully in the baskets, that's where the worker, while they're working, can eat. Hare Balabayis, the employer, Mitsuva, Sheyaniach Oisam Lechol Mimashe Noisam Boy. And that's the pasuk in Parshas Kisei say that Kisavoy Bekerem Reyacha. That's about a vineyard. Dafka Mechuber Lakarka. Now it doesn't matter if my job began when the grapes were picked. It doesn't matter. As long as the grapes were still in a phase where there was no chiyuv of hiding it. When you're going into a standing grain field. So it says that this din of eating is only regarding a work. If we're not speaking about a worker, what do you mean? It says what will be the tzlukim? If you walk into your fellow's vineyard, kanstesim. Who gave you permission to walk in there? If it's not, the Rambam is giving we don't need that because we have a Kabbalah, but the Rambam is giving a seichel. It makes sense because why? Because you have the shoes to work, not the shoes you can walk through my vineyard. Then the Torah says, next, halacha base. There is a difference. There is a difference. Like this. Like we mentioned before, nor techala, as we'll say in a moment. I can begin doing work with something that was already tithed. I'm working now with flour. My job will be to knead it. When I bring it into that phase, I'm going to bring about the chiyuv of challah. That's another time where that type of work will allow me to take from the flour. So, yes, when you're doing betalosh, you need that. If I begin the mechubar, for example, the guy that's boitzer harvesting grapes, or koitzer, the guy's reaping grain.
By grain, you have to take it home and process it.
Oh, yeah, 1 second. Keep going. We're speaking about betzira, right? Harvesting grapes. The yifen besal. My job is to place it in a basket until it achi yamalenu. The yanapeit sasal makamacher. He wants to define when you can eat. So my job is, let's say, to fill up a basket and to take the basket there and to unload it there. When can I eat it? Only when the basket is loaded. Right, the Gemara Malacha here is going to be when you start pressing it for wine. Whenever there's no issue with Tumas U'Maiser. You have to remember that. That's another whole pash. But it's only when the basket is full. I have a very limited window. If my job is to fill up a basket and to take it there and to unload it there, and then I come back with the basket and I harvest more grapes, I'm working b'mechubat and I'm filling up the basket and I'm taking it there. I can only eat when the basket is full, but once I unloaded the basket there, while I'm walking back, at that point I can't eat anything. When I'm working betalosh, I can eat no matter when. If my job is to begin work b'mechubar, there has to be a certain amount of this stage of the job. I'm doing something again and again. Now I finished. Avo. So now all of this would mean, when can I eat? When the basket is full. Now, when the basket is full, if I'm going to eat, what's going to happen? I'm going to put the basket down and I'm going to gnash on the grapes. There's an issue here. The issue here is midrabanan, is that I'm not going to be working the way a worker should work. It's better for the balabas for me to be working at a time where my eating doesn't stop me from working than for me to be working at a time that me eating also means not only am I eating, but I'm not working. And that's called chashiv aveda l'ba'alim. The Chachamim wanted to prevent the owner from suffering the loss, not the paying for the worker. Every minute counts. And the guy not only he's eating, but not working. So they gave me another window to eat. Amar Chachamim, When they're walking from one road to the other. Or dafka when they are returning. See, when I'm returning from the gas, because the basket is not that full, I can walk and eat. Who said that line? That guy cannot chew gum and jump rope at the same time. I think it was one president against another potential here in America. Because it's easier if the basket is full, I'll put the basket down. If I will be allowed to eat grapes when I'm walking back with the empty basket, then I won't be losing time also. So the Chachamim says, eat it then. And they're going to sit down and eat. They would rather now, by Din Torah, guys, you actually stop to work to eat. The Rambam is not putting a time on it, but there is, guys, yesh v'yesh. It means if a guy was mevatel the malacha for a very extended amount of time, the Torah allows you to eat. Does it mean that I'm going to sit down and eat for 2 hours the grapes? I don't know what the time is, but it's too much. Like we go back. Prior to the basket being full, I'm not allowed to eat at all. If I'm working the mechubar, I have to finish. Because I'm eating at a time. Now the Chachamim says, don't eat it when it's full. When you empty it on the way back, eat it. Then you're going to work more. But prior to the basket being full, they never gave me that right. Now me, the worker, had a so the Torah also writes, don't lift the sickle against your chaver standing right. Don't steal from your friend. Let's say the ksira was yakir that you made bundles. Prior to you finishing the bundles, people, by the way, you can eat. You can eat those kernels. It's edible. He has a minute. He's taking it home. You can eat it. You can't take it home. You can eat it then. Or you didn't take it home, but you asked for your chaver, come join me over there. But it's you're a ganif, a gazlan. Why? Because you have to pay back the money that you took. And that's the rule. If you violate a law and you have to compensate by payment, you're not going to give me chayv balkas. Another case. If a person's job is to milk cows, milk goats, milk. Your job is to make butter. And your job is to make cheese. You're working with, now we learned before, but the Rambam writes in Halacha Aleph, it has to be b'davar shegidulav min haaretz. Milk is not gidulav min haaretz. Ain't oichel at all, ever. Why? Next bin, you're hoeing around onions, you're hoeing around the garlic bashumin. It's amazing. You're taking stuff out, but a hoeing means you're like weeding out. You understand? You're not gathering the iked, even though you're gathering onions. No, you're gathering the bad onions to allow the good onions to grow bigger. You b'chlal cannot eat because ein masein gvar melachim. That's not called the gemar melachim. Removing something negative from the field is not called gemar. Gemar melachim means you're harvesting grapes, you're cutting grain, and you're bundling them. The ein tzarach loimer that if you're b'chlal not working with the grain, you're just a shomer. You're shomer ganois. You're shomer apardis. B'chol davar hamuchuber. Right? I'm simply standing and I'm making sure that no one steals the cucumbers. Give me a choice. I'm a glois. She'ein oichem klal nekuda. So this mitzvah is a very limited mitzvah. Halachei. Haboidel batman malagregis. You're separating dates. You're separating figs. We're separating. A guy already harvested everything. They are already gathered, and you're taking out the ones that are of inferior quality. What did we begin this chapter with? I am hired to come to a place where what is not yet tithable. I'm the one that's bringing it to the Gemara Malachi. Here, even the guys whose job is to separate the inferior from the superior, they're beginning when there was already a chiv of Tumus U'Maises. Ein oichel, because it's already Nigram Rach L'Maisi. However, what happens? I don't know. Like we mentioned, there's Tumus U'Maises, there's Chala, there's different steps. You're the owner, guys. Halt cup. You already reached the goyim. You already separate tithe. Now you're hiring new workers, for example, lover tzeroiros, to remove the pebbles from the grain. After it was tied, it was already tied. Or lenapa oison, you want to sift it, or you want to grind it. What am I doing? I'm working with something that's not fully nigman malachtan. There's two steps. By certain things, there's trumas u'maisrus, but when it comes to this, there's a chiyuv of challah. My job is to work with it, to bring it to the point where it will now become a choiv and challah. I will also be allowed to eat. If I was hired prior to the chiyuv challah, and my work is to bring it to that step. Aval halosh. It's interesting. Even the kneader, you would think that the kneader begins prior. We don't say that. The kneader and zicher, the makatev. Makatev is the one that's smearing, the egg yolk on the challahs to make it look yellow. Or the baker, eino oichel. The pnei shenigma malachim lachal, because they are beginning when there's already a gemar malach. And he brings it to that level. That's what you have to have. Halacha vav. Nisparsu igulov. You have cakes of figs, as they used to have over there. What happens if they are broken up? They are broken up. Or v'nispatchu chaviyois of the barrels of wine became open. Or v'nischatchu diluya of the gourds are already cut up. And you hired workers to deal with these items, even though right now they are in an unfinished state, but they were in a finished state. Then it got broken up. You understand? Because speaking about again, where the guy did not, he didn't. However, the guy didn't know that. Don't forget, when I agreed to work for you, even though I'm getting a little salary, if I know these halachas, I might accept the job because I know that I have the right to eat. When I look at your figs, just say the gemar malacha of certain figs is when they make it into that cake. It already was that cake. I didn't know that. And it got broken up. My job is to bring it back together. When you hired me, if I didn't know that there was already a kvias maisris, I think I'm getting hired to work with something that grew from the ground. It's a dayin l'nigran malachton. I will be allowed to eat from the figs. What I didn't know is that no, those figs were already gemar malacha. Then it got broken up. So you can't say, no, after I got hired, you can't eat. That's not fair. I'm being tricked because I only agreed to get paid a little amount of money because of that right. The balabas has to separate types. But normally they eat prior to the gemar malacha. But here they can't. Once it's gemar malach, can't eat. So the din is ma'aser, and then I have to eat. Ein hapoyal, another din. Whenever they're working for hegdish, they don't eat. Shenemar bekerem reyecha. Simple. Halacha zayin. Halacha seven. Socher es hapoyalim. And they are working b'neter avoy. Now neter avoy is like ma'aser sheni, right? It can only be eaten in Yerushalayim and HaKodesh. Hadei elo lo yechlu. But here again, that's only if they knew. No, it's neter avoy is already like hegdish. It's not in the reyecha. But same thing. Halacha 8. Hakoitzer, if his job is to be koitzer, to be dosh, right, to thresh, to be zoida, to winnow, better to separate. Bahamoisek, we're moving on to olives, right? If your job is to harvest olives, bahaboitzer, to harvest grapes, bahadoirech, to shred the grapes, all of that, that's what we're talking about. Pasha. In other words, I'm being koitzer, mamish, gedulav and aretz. I'm working. I was hired prior to gemar malacha. My job is to bring it to gemar malacha. That's oichle min hatoyim. Halacha 9. Shoyim regitas, watchmen of vats, watchmen of aremois, of grain heaps. The chol davar atolish min hakarka. Shadayin lenim rach meiser. Interestingly, oichle mehilchas medina. Go figure that. In other words, even though the Rambam wrote by the Shomer, right in Halachat Dalet, that a Shomer cannot eat. Nevertheless, the minig that means that people decided. People pay the workers very little. If society decides this mitzvah will allow for you It's as if they made a stipulation. It's a Tanai Shema.
Between grain and cucumbers is basically what he's doing.
Yes, these are the items. No, Shem Negitas Varemus. Only these two. Correct. Very good then. Only Milchus Medina. Why not Midin Torah? Because which is why we learned in Allah that normally a Shomer doesn't eat at all. But there's one thing: any type of job that demands some manual labor, even if it's only be'ever me'evarov, bein beyadav, bein beraglov, you're treading on the grapes, or seifav, if your job is to carry, then you eat min ha'torah. Why is it important? I'll tell you why it's important. Because you only get to eat mehilchis Medina if that's the hilchis Medina, if that's the common practice. If that's not the common practice, you can't bring out the din Torah.
All this is talking before it was tied, right? Because if they took off the mice at that point.
Exactly. Unless it's grain, and this item is still going to be brought l'chiyuv challah. Then we say, after it's tied, you were hired. After.
Like if there's work that needs to be done with the grapes, making it into wine or something like that.
If it's already, no, so 1 second. So,
no,
yeah, but normally when it comes to grapes that were harvested for wine, remember we learned the chiyuv of tithing is only when it goes into the lower vat, the higher vat. But yeah, very good. And if you already have the wine, your job is to make it into an aromatic wine. You're nothing to do with this, unless the Silchas Medina. Halacha Hoyo about the enemy working with figs, and the guy has grapes. You can't eat grapes. You can only eat that. We'll see how limited. If you're working by novim, lo yachol b'te'enim, because it says b'kerem v'chalta novim. Dafka. More than that, listen to this. The ha'oisa b'gefenzu. You are hired to work in this vine, not in the whole vineyard. You can only eat from this vine. You can't even eat from the neighboring vine. Another thing, when you eat, what happens if you bring in your knapsack, you bring Yaron's breakfast? What happens is like this, it's interesting. When you eat one thing by itself, you eat less of it. If you can eat it with something else, even though you're eating it with, you end up eating more of it. You cannot bring something else.
You can bring some condiments.
You cannot bring condiments. You can't even add salt. Now, the im kotzatz im balabayis. 1 second. If the guy makes up with the balabas, guys, there's a down. No, the challenge is that once you have this permit, this mitzvah, this permit, the guy can eat up to, who knows? Some people are eaters. So sometimes the balabas can tell him, I know these are your rights, midin Torah. I will hire you by knowing you'll eat up until a certain amount. You can make that condition. It's once the guy doesn't have to agree, but if he agreed to that, once he anyways can only eat a kilo, then let the guy eat it with bread. Let the guy add salt. He's not going to eat more. Like, why do you care? Let the guy enjoy it more. Another din, guys, we're in the middle of halachiyut. He can eat grapes. He cannot suck the juice of the grapes out. He'll end up eating a lot more grapes. He has to eat it the way it is. Another din. He cannot bring his bun of ishtoi. Now that they're not eating, they're just bringing fire, like grain. Like he was saying, yeah, people can eat grain, but if you roast the grains, try that, it's geshmakim. You cannot have other people with you that are mahavavin lo yashibalim ba'ur, and only you are eating it. What's as you kenafshecha literally means as you desire. Chazal interpret anavim kamay shehem. Anavim. Another thing, even if you're following all of the above, there's eating and then there's called achila gasa. There's in Yiddish of fressing. As you desire. You know what desire means? If you are listening to your body, when you're satisfied, eating more is not going to be. It's not going to be kanafshecha. It's going to be disgusting. On the other hand, let's say I'm working in your field and you have inferior, superior. You gave me work beginning with the inferior. I can wait. I can wait for the superior. Another thing, the yeshloi lechol kishus. He can eat the amount of cucumbers, even bedinar, or koisvais afilo bedinar, even if the money that I was hired to work is a sixth of a dinner. In other words, I can eat just a much 6 times more. I can eat 10 times more than the money I'm getting paid. You know why? Because the year you're going to be a rafson, no one will hire you again. There's a certain amount of understanding over here that you have to know. The person is guarding 4 or 5 grain heaps. Don't eat only from one. Even though we learned before, divide it. At least share the love. If the guy was hired to tread in the vat, and we learned that's one of the cases where you can eat. Now, how did you tread a vine? You walked with your dirty feet, you shared the love, length and width. So if you only walked in one direction, that means that what is here is not wine. You're working with grapes. You're not working with wine yet. So you can eat from that oven, but you can't drink the wine. Because Shadain ain't oisim elaban oven bilvat. But the moment you begin walking in the other direction, now you press the grapes. Both shasi, and they ate it. Now you're working with both. Yesh lo yilechol, beit min anovim, velicious min atirosh. You can both have the grapes, you can have the wine, because now you're oisim anovim bayayin. Halacha yud gimel. I'm curious today with the machines. Do they have the shasi ve'edav? Could be. You have to know the chachma of making wine. How you press the juice out is a chachma. Halacha yud gimel. Poil she'amar.
Round thing as a thing goes around. Circle. It's not like that.
Not back and forth, but maybe that's the same concept. In other words, it's not direct. Poil she'amar. It mimics your toes. I have the right to eat. I'm not going to eat. Allow whatever I would eat for my wife and children. He is notifying him. I can eat kenafshecha. I'm not going to eat kenafshecha. I'm going to eat less, but the difference I'll give ein shoyim loy, because it's not yours. That's the minig. You invite someone, they take a bag with them because he's a dog. That's why it's called a doggy bag, Mr. in English. Well, who are you to take it? It's not yours. Afilu nazir. The nazir is not eating any of the grapes. So he says, listen, I can't eat. At least let my wife eat. A little amount. No. It's not yours. Halacha Yudalot, final halacha in this chapter. That they are all employed. And they listen. You can make these tanoim. The agreement was if that's what they agree to. Now the chiddush here is that the Torah was mezaka something. I, as an adult, I can be moichel on a debt. I have the right. I can even my wife as an adult, my children if they are adults. Once the worker, we're speaking about child labor, is too young, he cannot be moichel it. So even though if that was their agreement, he can still eat. So therefore, they are able to be moichel. And here we don't say they're not masna mashakos about Torah. It's a money merit, and a person can give up. A person can forego. You owe me money, me didn't try to. You owe me money. I can forgive the debt, and you won't have to pay me. But if the workers are minors, the father cannot be moichel. Neither can the children. They don't have das limchel. Ella min, Ella Michelle, Shomai. So even if they had that agreement, the minors are still allowed to eat. Gewaldig.